Would I be the a-hole if I asked my daughter to return her inheritance? I have 2 sons and a daughter. All of my children are college-aged. My first son wanted to study medicine, and medicine is very expensive. After he finished high school, my husband got sick and my firstborn daughter Janine took over the business. She opted not to go to university but encouraged her brother to pursue medicine and that she will work in the family business and pays fees. Her other brother also wants to pursue medicine, so Janine agreed to pay for them too. That was 6 years ago, and all of her siblings are finished with their studies and doing internships. My husband's health has also improved, but my daughter still runs the business. My daughter decided to move to Canada since all of her siblings have become self-sufficient and my husband and I have saved for retirement. I was talking to my husband and he was thinking about writing a will. He decided that from the sales of the business, Janine will receive 70% of the money and her siblings will share the 30% left equally. His reasoning was that the business paid for the medical school fees and it is expensive. Since Janine did not go to medical school and worked in the business, she should get all of the money. I do agree that Janine put her life on hold for her siblings, but she is getting married to a very rich man who will take care of her. My sons, on the other hand, will need money to get married and they all want stay-at-home wives. I can't seem to change my husband's opinion. I think that they should all share the money equally. Janine has a very strong business sense. She changed our company. Before, it was making 1 million profits in a year, but when she took over, it started making 3 million. She can start her own business, and I know she can make it thrive. Meanwhile, the money doctors making during their internship and residency is very low. I tried to explain this to my husband, but all he says is they should start eating ramen noodles and stop relying on their sister. I have decided to ask Janine to give her money to her brothers after her dad transfers it. So would I be the a-hole if I ask that of her? Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. She already sent the rest of your kids to college for you. Now you want her to get less inheritance? At what point does she ever get a return on her hard work? And remember, this was written by OP, so she probably painted herself in the best light possible. Imagine how bad she truly acted and is acting. She also expects her son's future wives to stay at home and not work, while she wants her daughter to start her own business after she gets married. Okay, so your daughter stepped in and passed up on college to take over the business for your family. She paid for the son's education. She even tripled the profits of the business. In what world is it fair to her to penalize her for marrying someone with money? I'm not done yet. Now, your husband clearly owns 100% of the asset. For whatever reason, it is his, not yours. In what world is it fair to go around him and try to ensure his asset isn't divided as he has planned for it? Not sure why you love your sons more than your daughter. The supposed justification that doctors don't earn enough, but yet they plan to have stay-at-home wives, is a complete load of crap and you know it. You don't love your daughter. You do love your sons. You have a chance to at least avoid pointing this out to her here. Your interference will accomplish nothing but hard feelings within your family. You're the a-hole. My God, woman, you are truly the a-hole here. Your daughter did what she could do to help out the entire family. 1. She helped her father when he was ill and continued running the business so you and your husband would still have a roof over your heads. 2. Your daughter sacrificed her own personal interests for herself by not attending university to help the family. 3. While working for that same business, she was able to increase profits for her father's company and assist her brothers in gaining an education to pursue careers as doctors. 4. Then when your husband has recovered and wants to reward his daughter for her personal sacrifices, and wants to reimburse her down the road for her kindness and love of family, somehow you can't get it through your poor sons who will do just fine down the road because their freaking doctors scold that your husband is 1000% happy to reward his daughter for the love, support, and sacrifice she endured for you all? And so what? She just happened to have met a lovely man who just appears to be wealthy and that should cover it. Your husband wants to make sure she gets what she deserves. Let the man do so. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not telling my mom I got full ride scholarship to college? I, 18 female, stopped living at my mom's when I was 17. She and I do not have a very good relationship and has become more strained over the years. The trouble started when I was 8 and my mom started dating her husband. I was several months out from losing my dad, and when she introduced me to her husband, then boyfriend, I was honest that I did not like her dating. She told me I would come around, But within 4 months, she left me with a cousin and got engaged to the guy while his kids were present. I found out because my cousin got a text with a photo of them, and the news had already gone around the rest of my mom's family and her husband's family. Then I was the last person to find out about her being pregnant 2 years after that point. Her stepson, who was 15 at the time, decided he would taunt me with the news and saying how mom had fully replaced my dad and I was next. I don't think he actually saw it that way, but he knew that's how I felt about mom being remarried. Apparently, they were all taken by their dad to be told while my mom was telling her family. I think it was like a week later when he taunted me over it. They did attempt to include me in stuff, but because I wasn't into it, that was kind of just left to be its own thing. Mom pulled away from me and would then feel bad and try to bond. Eventually, I just decided I had lost her because I couldn't blend with her husband and his kids, and because she would always resent me for that, the way I resented her for moving so fast after dad and putting everyone before me. I moved in with my dad's parents. This is where I was when I applied for college and stuff and I got the scholarship. I never told my mom. We didn't talk for months. And it's only after I started college last week that she had reached out to my grandparents about something and she found out. She was upset, furious, all the stuff, and she asked how I could leave her out of something so huge, because she would have celebrated the news with me. I told her I didn't really consider her part of my life anymore, and just like she had moved on from her life away from me, I had done the same away from her. She told me it was different and I was being cruel. Her husband took over and demanded I go to them and discuss everything as a family so that my mom could have the life she deserves, and have her kid treat her right instead of being selfish and spoiled. I never set out to hurt my mom, but I did stop thinking about her role in my life after I moved out. Am I the a-hole? So that my mom could have the life she deserves and have her kid treat her right instead of being selfish and spoiled. That right there says it all. It still isn't about you. They are still only thinking of themselves. And how dare you not submit to them? Not today, Holopi. I hope you have a good time at college. Yep, stepdad sounds like a piece of work. What's that? You put in the effort to get a full ride scholarship to college? How selfish and spoiled you must be. It's clear that neither of them intended to put up money for college if Opie had already started by the time they found out, and then they chose to be mad about it rather than happy for her. Interesting emotional choice to say the least. I wouldn't be surprised if they heard she was in college and reached out because they wondered how she was paying for it. Not out of desire to help, but to figure out if they might be entitled to it. I think mom wanted to make a big online brag about her daughter getting a big scholarship. My absent parent complained that no one was congratulating him over the accomplishment of the child he hadn't spoken to for years. Like he had anything to do with it. Not the a-hole. She didn't do the work to keep you in her family, so yeah, you aren't part of her family. Why would you tell her when she isn't part of your life? Congratulations on your scholarship. I know that must have taken some work. It's interesting that your mom is upset not to know about your scholarship, but had no discussion with you about your plans after graduation. That seems so basic a discussion. Hey, what are your plans? Communication is a two-way street. If this assumption is correct, she never asked you your plans. Then not the a-hole. We hadn't talked in months, so no, she never asked me plans for college or anything. Not recently anyway. When I was 15, we got into a fight about it, but otherwise nothing. She abandoned you. She doesn't get to have it both ways. You can't abandon a child and then be a priority to the child. She sounds insufferable. Not the a-hole. Just go no contact with her and walk away. Next story. Am I the a-hole for wanting my parents in town but not at my house while I'm adjusting to life with a newborn? I'm 24 female. I'm currently pregnant. Due in December. I live with my fiancé Dan in the town where I grew up. I have a great relationship with my parents, but they had me quite late in life and they're both retired now, living in a beach town in the south. When they moved out, they sold me the house I grew up in well below market value, in exchange for me hosting them when they needed/wanted to come into town. It's been like that for 2 years. They've been here a bunch of times for 3 to 4 days at a time, and it's been a good arrangement, I think. Now, yesterday, I was talking to my mom about the birth, and I brought up that I would like her to be in town when I give birth, and to stay for a few weeks after. Dan has no relationship with his family, and I'm an only child, with only a couple of very elderly aunts and a few cousins I don't have much of a relationship with, so we don't really have much in terms of a support system. Therefore, I'd love for my parents to come here and help around the house with the baby, offer me the emotional support I know I'm going to need, etc. My mom was excited that I was asking her to do this and said that she'd be okay with staying with us for a few weeks while we adjusted to the baby. I then told her that I didn't mean her staying with us, just in town, as I believe Dan and I are going to need and want alone time to adjust to the baby. My mom was a little offended, saying that she wasn't going to bother us and she was going to help out. But I told her it was nothing personal. I just preferred if she got a hotel or Airbnb or something. My father then intervened, having been somewhere within earshot, and said that accommodation was going to be really expensive around that time of the year. Our town has a very big Christmas market, and he wasn't going to spend thousands of dollars when I was asking them to come. And it had been our agreement when they sold me the house that they could stay whenever they wanted. Which is fair, but I don't think that having a newborn at home is just a regular time in someone's life. And it's not like I ever complained about them coming over before. I just don't want them in the house, but I do want them in town. And I feel a little sad that they're putting money above me and their grandson. My mother hung up the call trying to appease the situation, but then sent me a text saying that her and my dad were a little upset over the whole thing, and that they thought I wasn't being reasonable. When Dan got home, I told him all this and he kind of sided with them, saying that they should be allowed to stay with us. But I still don't think it makes sense as we are going to be needing our alone time. Was I the a-hole here? Now for the top comments. You're not the a-hole for wanting privacy with your husband as you adjust to being parents. But you're the a-hole for asking your parents to come, but stay at a hotel without offering to pay for it. Sadly, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Wanting support is understandable, but if you want them near but not at your home, you need to pay for it. It's unreasonable to ask them to foot the bill. It's understandable to want privacy and time to adjust, and you are not obligated to have anyone in your home that you do not want. But I'm astounded by your entitlement. You want your elderly parents to spend thousands to stay in an Airbnb for a month during holiday season and provide you with emotional and practical support while you adjust to parenthood? Have you forgotten who's doing who the favor? You're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. Either let them stay at your house or pay for their hotel/B&B/whatever yourself, or don't expect them to visit. They're doing you a favor. A second favor at that, since they already sold you their house at well below market value in exchange for your letting them stay there when they visit. I'm not saying you're an a-hole for not wanting house guests when you have a new baby, just that you can't demand that they visit for an extended period to help you, but insist that they pay their own way. She also wants them there to help with housework. She's asking them to come over and clean the house they're not allowed to stay in, then leave to go back to the hotel she expects them to pay for. The audacity of some new parents. I'm actually flabbergasted. The entitlement reeks in this post. Imagine being a parentless, infertile, homeless woman with dreams of becoming a mother, having a roof over their head. This has check your privilege all over it. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister-in-law she's ruining her relationship with her newly adopted son? My sister-in-law, my husband's oldest sister, and her husband have been foster parents forever. Just recently, like the past 3 months recently, one of their longtime foster kids officially became their son after living with them for 4 years. And sister-in-law and her husband have decided they are changing his first name because it's too weird and not a real name. Given his name is incredibly uncommon, and not my kid, I won't share it, but think of something along the lines of word names that relate to the ocean. He loves his name. He has never expressed any kind of bad vibe about his name, and he has actually asked them not to change it. Speaking as someone who also has a very uncommon name, at least for the US, and think constellation for what mine could be, and who loves my name also, I feel so bad for him. They told him he would thank them one day, and to think about how nice it would be for him to be named by his parents instead of by strangers. He's almost 9, and he told them it was part of who he is. He also pointed to me, but they said I was different, and that I am not a doctor or a lawyer, so my name is less of a hindrance. He said he doesn't want to be a doctor or a lawyer either. They told him he could change his mind, and in the corporate world his current name would not work. I pointed out that I do have a corporate job and have never had problems. But again, I am different. They decided his name should be James or William, and they are working on deciding which to use while giving him a family name. My husband told them they should listen to me, Sister-in-law went on a tangent about how I don't know what I'm talking about, and I should sit down and consider the harm my parents did to me by inflicting me with a name as stupid as mine. I told her she could insult me, my parents, and everyone else who gives their kids names she doesn't like, but she has to accept the fact her son wants to keep his name. And just seeing these people who promise to love him and be his family when he didn't always have one, try to change him and tell him he's wrong for hating his name. I said she might not see it, but she is seriously harming their relationship. And she should be prepared for him to not forgive her for this. I also pointed out how it is a link to his biological parents, not just to random strangers, but to people who are no longer alive to care for him. I can't say what she said, but she told me I should mind my own business, that I had no right to say any of this to her, which might be true. Am I the a-hole? My knee-jerk is that this has zero to do with the corporate world. This is all about her discomfort with a name she sees as less than normal. That kid has a rough ride ahead. The kid already has a job to do. Assimilate and grow up to be a doctor or lawyer. That would be a great return on an investment on their part. Buy kid and he in turns buys you a nice house to retire in. Just waiting for them to fling out during an argument how he needs to be grateful to them always no matter what, because they adopted him and they didn't need to. I mean, that is an easy fix, even if they change it. Tell the kid that he doesn't have to respond to a name he doesn't identify with, and he can change it back when he turns 18. When my mother started calling me by a nickname I didn't like, I would simply pretend I didn't hear her until she got frustrated and used my real name. I hope he should start saving money and offer to give it to him when he's 18 as a birthday gift.